The defense of the Ukrainian Armed Forces near Pokrovsk has crumbled. General Mordvichev struck at the weakest point. Hello, dear friends. You are on the Operational Reports channel. We continue to analyze the situation on the front lines with you in our daily format. You know what's interesting? Recently, foreign press has reported that Trump is ready to provide military aid to Ukraine in exchange for rare earth metals, resources, etc. But what's even more interesting is that this foreign press has provided maps showing that 70% of these resources are concentrated, and guess where? In the east. Either in territories already under Russian control or close to them. That is, where the Russian army is currently advancing. So what happens? 70% of these resources will go to Russia, 30% will remain for Ukraine, but Trump is demanding that 30% for himself. In the end, Ukraine is left with 0% of rare earth metals, resources, and so on. Well, we continue our review of the situation on the front lines. Let's open the map. So the battle for Toretsk is essentially over. It was a tough battle. Of course, we'll have to wait a bit for an official announcement, but de facto, everything has already been decided. Look, all the houses, streets, and districts of Toretsk have already been cleared and are under the control of the Russian army. However, the Russian Ministry of Defense could not announce the capture of the city because one defensive stronghold remained under the control of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. This is the Toretskaya mine. Not just the mine, but also its waste heap. As long as this stronghold remained under UAF control, the capture of the city could not be declared. Nevertheless, the Russian army did not stand still but moved forward, bypassing the mine and expanding its control perimeter. Moreover, this expansion was not only to the northeast, but also to the north and northwest. Here, this entire area. See? Plus, as I already mentioned, control was also expanded to the northeast. Here, Russian troops took control of the village of Krimskoye, which the Russian Ministry of Defense announced a few days ago. But let's return to the Toretskaya mine. From the very beginning, it was clear that the Russian troops would not be able to take the mine quickly. First, the waste heap near the mine is the largest and tallest in Toretsk. Its height is 80 meters. Second, the mine itself is quite large. The area is 200 meters by 500 meters, which is 100,000 square meters. That's just the surface area, not including underground structures. So the assault on the mine began on January 15th, as I wrote in my Telegram channel. So if you want to always know about all the advances, go and subscribe to my Telegram channel. The link will be in the description of this release. So the assault began on January 15th, and yesterday reports came from various sources that the assault on the industrial zone of the mine was over. It has come under the control of the Russian army. What does it mean that the assault on the industrial zone is over? The industrial zone is the fortified area. By losing it, the UAF de facto lost the mine itself. Just look at the map. Let me zoom in. Here, look. This area of the mine is now controlled by Russian troops. And this, well, you can see, it's essentially bare. It's now a grey zone. That is, UAF control remains there, but Russian troops are also infiltrating, and now clearing operations are underway. Thus, it took almost 3 weeks to capture the mine. Overall, if we take the starting point from the beginning of the battles in Toretsk, which was July 31st, 2024, the battle for the city lasted 6 months. And an interesting fact, this is the first relatively large city to come under Russian control in a year and a half. Well, after Bakhmut, Artemovsk, The pre-war population of Toretsk, I remind you, was more than 80,000 people. But, in addition to significant progress in this area, a major breakthrough is also noted to the north. We'll now move on to that. It's happening south of Chasiv Yar, although there is also noticeable progress in Chasiv Yar itself. But we'll talk about that later. So look here, you see this entire area, shaded in red, has come under Russian control. And what's in yellow is now a grey zone. But let's return to this area. The movement here went from the Siversky-Donetsk-Donbass Canal towards the village of Belahora. The advance exceeded 4 kilometers, and now Russian troops are on the approaches to Belahora. Why is this breakthrough important? Look, after the capture of Belahora, battles for Alexandrivka will begin. Here is this settlement. And then? Then look, a straight road to Kostiantynivka. From Oleksandrivka, it's only 4 kilometers to the city. And I remind you that the offensive on Kostiantynivka is also coming from Chasiv Yar. Right now, Russian troops are on the approaches to Stupochki, and from there, as we measured in the last release, it's only 5 kilometers to Kostiantynivka, and it's a straight road without any obstacles, in general. Here, 5 kilometers, and now there's an advance to also reach a straight road. That is, a classic encirclement of the city is underway. And considering that Kostiantynivka is located in a lowland, defending the city will be very difficult for the UAF, especially since the offensive is planned from several sides. That's why a few days ago, an urgent evacuation of residents was announced. The UAF command understands that battles for the city will begin very soon. Also, in Chasiv Yar itself, everything is moving towards its conclusion. In particular, the success of Russian troops is noted in the south of the city, specifically in the Shevchenko neighborhood. Russian troops entered the eastern part of the neighborhood and were able to take it under their control, penetrating 600 meters deep into the UAF defense, although some groups even reached the center of Shevchenko. But there's no information yet on whether they managed to consolidate there. But this area is already under stable control of the Russian army. This became possible thanks to the capture of heights. Therefore, the UAF cannot and will not be able to offer serious resistance here. Plus, it's all private housing here. There's nothing to hold on to, and when, on top of everything else, you're being shelled from the heights. Well, you understand. In the very near future, the neighborhood will completely come under Russian control. And what will remain in Chasiv Yar for the Ukrainian Armed Forces? A few blocks in the center and the southern neighborhood. Well, that's about it. Making predictions is, of course, a tricky business. But judging by the trend, by March, the UAF will lose Chasiv Yar, and by mid-March, battles for Kostiantynivka will begin. Also, I want to separately note the problems of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Moreover, these problems are acknowledged by Ukrainian analysts. In general, problems on the Novopavlivka direction, specifically in the areas of Dakhna and Andriivka. In Dakhna, as I already said, the UAF garrison only holds the western part of the village, and in Andriivka, the battles have shifted to the center of the village. Plus, last night reports came in, including from Ukrainian telegram channels, that Russian troops began an operation to encircle Konstantinovka. And I remind you, the first Russian DRGs have already entered the village. In general, we're monitoring the situation. As Ukrainian media write, back on January 11th, due to a catastrophic shortage of personnel in the UAF ground forces, due to losses on the front, desertion, which even the TCC cannot replenish, Commander-in-Chief Syrskyi decided to forcibly transfer 50,000 soldiers from other units, including the Air Force, Air Defense, etc., to the infantry. The benefit of this is purely nominal, to provide numbers. As Ukrainian frontline officers themselves say, there's little use in such reinforcements. But there's no other contingent for the ever-increasing losses, which are increasingly hated in the rear. Let's start with the Kupyansk direction. According to incoming data, Russian troops continue to expand the control zone on the western bank of the Oskil River. Advances by forward Russian groups are noted both north of the settlement of Zakhidne in the forest area of Plosky and south in the area of the village of Kalinov, where a number of dominant heights have come under Russian control. At the same time, on the Krasnoliman front, Russian units have expanded the control zone west of the settlement of Makiivka. This information is confirmed by footage published by the Ukrainian side showing attacks on forward Russian positions using FPV drones. In addition, Russian assault groups, as a result of further advances on the western bank of the Zherebets River in the area of the village of Ivanivka, have taken control of UAF strongholds on the approaches to the eastern outskirts of the village of Kolodezi. This information is also confirmed by footage published by the Ukrainian side showing attacks on forward Russian positions using FPV drones, as noted by the Ukrainian Resource Deep State in its publication. Well, that concludes today's review. I wish you a good working day. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and all the best to you.